Hello everybody, my name's James. Welcome to the Planet FPL Gameweek 1 Deadline stream in partnership with FPL Team. And it's live. FPL Team is your best one-stop shop for all your future FPL planning. And it comes particularly important when you're trying to plan weeks ahead of a Gameweek 1 deadline. We are 58 minutes away from the launch of FPL 2025-26. The time for planning is over. The time for decisions is now. As per usual, I'll be going through as many of your dilemmas as I can between now and the 6:30 p.m. UK time Game Week 1 deadline. Similar questions may well be skipped. You will find many of your questions answered potentially on the graphics. Top right hand corner is my team. It's the same as the final drafts podcast this morning. I am on bench boost. It will be Verbruggen and Perry, Porro, Van Dijk, Murillo, Konsa, Wan-Bissaka, Palmer, Wirtz, Gakpo, Bruno Fernandes, Keenan Dewsbury Hall, Watkins, Bowen, João Pedro, Captain, Cody Gakpo, Vice, Cole Palmer. To the left of me, you'll see my correct score predictions for all the games and my preference of a top 10 in order of captaincy. And right at the bottom of the screen, you'll see next 5 fixtures for all teams and all the flag players currently in FPL. Bottom right hand corner, you'll see my predicted lineups for all 20 teams this game week. And right below me is the important benching dilemmas where there are 2 players together. The player with the tick is the preferred option to start. They run in order, pages 1 to 4, with some goalkeeper dilemmas on page 5. I wish you all the very, very best of luck, but not as much as Thomas Frank for the season ahead, because that's the manager I care about most. I have one piece of advice before I answer any questions. For God's sakes, play it your way. Let's go, everyone. Spooky Sorcerer, as I choke. He's first. Says, hi, James. Hope you're well. Want to bench boost Game Week 2, but also want Porro. Should I go for it or go Munoz from the start or sell him for Munoz in Game Week 2? Already have Richards. If that's your strategy, go Munoz. Jason says, hi James, do you think Kelleher starts? Really want him on bench boost as I fancy a Brentford clean sheet. Also, who would you cap out of Ekiteke and Wirtz? Ekiteke would be the preference. I do think Kelleher would start, probably 80%. Is that enough for you to activate the bench boost? Up to you. I don't know how good their longer term fixtures are. Consider that in your thinking, my friend. King of Mandalore says, Bowen or João Pedro? If João Pedro can't see anything to do with the extra 0.5 except maybe upgrade Estev to Anderson as 5th defender. Worth keeping money in the bank in that instance. Yeah, I mean, look, general piece of advice. If you can keep 0.5 in the bank, do it. Particularly if you're looking to potentially make some early moves. But someone like me who's looking to pretty much leave this team dead if I can for a while, I don't think that 0.5 in the bank is quite so relevant because I'll be happy to make a couple of moves if need be. But I think, yeah, if you're not sure that you want to spend it, mate, just leave it, mate. Just leave it. In terms of preference between Bowen or João Pedro, João Pedro for me from the start, mate. Greg says, hi, James. Any worries on Ekiteke starting? Shouldn't be any. For our patrons watching along live, thank you for your continued support as we approach 800 paying patrons and over 2,200 overall. All 2,200 of those plus will have access to the Patreon Best Bits that will be available at 7 p.m. tonight. But yes, for our patrons watching live, please tag me on Slack if we've got any relevant information in terms of Liverpool team news. By the way, if there is some form of shock here where there was a leak that a Van Dijk, Wirtz or Gakpo wasn't starting, Rodgers and Cucurella are my backup plans, and I'm aware of that, so it's not going to make me jumpy at the time. If it was Gakpo not starting, I would just captain Palmer. But no, you shouldn't have any worries there, Greg. Not for this week. I think I wouldn't start with Gakpo and Ekiteke, I think, because they could both become a problem, I feel like, by the time you hit Game Week 4. But no, you shouldn't have an issue, mate. The Waddler GG says, hi, James. How do you feel about Vicario and Dubravka? Good luck and thanks for stream. I don't think Vicario is a great pick, personally. I think there'd be better alternative 5.0 options. It feels like I want a Tottenham kind of coverage pick, which I can understand with the first 7 weeks, particularly if you're free hitting Game Week 2. If you're bench boosting, a little bit dangerous. The Burnley people seem to think that the Dubravka's going to start. That's what they think, but there's a risk element to that if you're obviously bench boosting. Hasselbank win says, James, give me your player of the year, young player of the year, best signing, overperformer, underperformer, and wild take for the season. Player of the year, Moise Caicedo. Young player of the year, Esteval. Best signing. Cunha. Overperformer, Evan Nilsson. Underperformer, Salah. Wild take for the season. Wild take for the season. Do you know what? I never put the tweet out for wild takes, did I? Manchester United finished top 4. It's a wild take. Stephen Moore says, hi James, do you think Sanchez, Murillo, Keenan Dewsbury Hall or Kelleher, Nico, Tielemans? Probably prefer the Murillo route. 3 hit 6, wildcard 13th, that helps. That's gonna put me behind the process all that weeks. Also start Anderson or Munoz, if not benching dilemmas. Cheers always for the preseason content. They are both on the benching dilemmas, mate. And if you're wondering why Munoz over Anderson, despite the fact I predicted Fulham to be 0-0, it's the Daniel Munoz upside, mate. Sean G says, hi James, hope you're good and thanks for the great content. What are your thoughts on Jimenez versus the other similar price forwards? Seems like he's favoured over Muniz, who's likely to leave. Yeah, but here's the problem. Muniz is likely to leave. So what's the consequence? Fulham just go with 33-year-old Jimenez, wherever he is, on his own for the whole season. No, they buy another player, mate. It's not an option for me. From that perspective, I think Larson would be much safer. Evan Nilsson, similar price as well, would be preferences for me at the moment. And obviously, if Jimenez is still the clear 9, you can look at it at game week 4, I think. CMP says, hi James, last decision. Which combo do you prefer? Watkins and a Van der Ven / Chris Richard rotation? Or Mateta and Van Dijk? Van Dijk, I was just having this discussion on Team News Stream for advanced tier patrons that obviously I can't see the rest of your team, but I think it's really important to have a 6 million defender. Really, really important. And if you don't, I think that supersedes everything where I'd say take the Van Dijk option. That said, I also think Watkins is a little bit of a non-negotiable in my opinion. But I think from the structure perspective, Van Dijk would take the priority. If you've got another 6, then the Watkins option. I probably would start with Van der Ven rather than Richards, but it depends when you need most. Paul Whitehead says, no question, just a well done on your success. Hard work from a long-time podcast listener. You are now the only resource I listen to since Mark left. Paul, I wish you commiserations on what's probably inevitably now going to be a shit show of an FPL season, but I thank you for your support. Dan says, do you think Trafford starts? I've got him in a predicted lineup. There's conflicting reports today on Edison. I wouldn't consider him for fantasy at this moment. We know they're being linked with Donnarumma. Just don't go there as well. But yes, at the moment, I've got him in a predicted lineup. If you're just joining in, you can see my predicted lineups for all 20 teams, bottom right corner. JP says, hi mate, bit out of the loop with content. Why no Salah and not Arsenal defence? When should we look to bring them in? Salah kind of committed to going against. I explained many of my reasons for that on the Final Draft podcast this morning and have been for the last few weeks. I'm not going to cover that over and over again. I prefer to spread the funds ultimately. In terms of Arsenal defence, Van Dijk to Gabriel game week 7 is part of my strategy at the moment. Jack says, hi James, should I go for Reinders and Ndiaye or Rodgers and Keenan Dewsbury Hall? Prefer the Rodgers Dewsbury Hall route currently. Not high on Ndiaye following correspondent week. And I think Reinders could be absolutely brilliant. Again, I've just discussed with our advanced tier patrons that I think the worst case scenario for me, if he's great, is I buy him about 5.8 in game week 6. That's like the worst case scenario. Morgan Reed says, am I mad to have Mateta over Pedro? I have Palmer already. Not at all, mate. You've got 2 players at the same price and you've got a preference. Pilot Flame 226 says, what would be your rough plan to get Haaland and Arsenal assets in game week 6 and 7? Who would you be removing? Probably will ignore Haaland is the most likely thing. It's definitely doable, but will most likely ignore. I intend when I get to game week 9 as part of the plan that I did on the midweek dilemma for our intermediate plus tier patrons and above on Tuesday, that I'll be sitting there with 3 Arsenal and 3 Chelsea in game week 9 with the ability of transfers in hand to then possibly even target Crystal Palace in game week 10. It's set. I know what I'm doing. People don't have to agree with it, but there's a plan. It might be Marmoush covers me Haaland. That's a possibility. But I'm quite comfortable with Palmer captaincy in 6. I actually like that against Brighton more than this week against Palace or game week 3 against Fulham. Z says, hi James, feasible to go with 3 4 million defenders. Rodon, Alderte, Esteve. If not, who would be better to compromise on Watkins, Pedro, Bruno or Wirtz? I don't like that, as in the 3 4.0s. I wouldn't compromise Watkins on that from the start. Not sure I love the forwards lower than Pedro personally at the moment. So it would be one of the other 2. That might come down to if you've got Salah maybe or Haaland in your squad, might be an influence on that in terms of captaincy, because Bruno could be great for game week 3. Verts, I don't think we could kind of put our hat on and say that's definitively going to be a captain option. Yes, yet he may well be, but I don't think we can see that at the moment. So I think from that, it would probably be cut Verts. Billy Taylor suggests, Jimbo, thank Christ the deadline stream is back on Bench Boost 1. Do you prefer the missionary position of Rogers Rodon combo or spicy Rutter Chalobah duo? We already have Perry in goal. I think for the immediate right in front, I'd probably prefer the secondary option, actually, of Rutter Chalobah, but that might walk into more problems moving forward. Rogers and Rodon be safe as houses. So the answer to that, Billy, might even lie in terms of how early you think you will want to wildcard. If it's quite early, you don't mind a Rutter Chalobah. If you're thinking sort of target 13 like I am, and probably Rogers Rodon, mate. Spooky Sorcerer says also, if I want a 4.5 million to play in game week 1 and bench boost game week 2, should I get Conser or Anderson? So you need for both. Small preference for Anderson. Small. Matt Maher says, hi James, I'm on Haaland and no free hit 4. Currently sat with Murillo, Milenkovic and Nico Williams as free hit 4 avoids Arsenal. Then game week 7 moved to 2 times Arsenal defenders. Is 3 times Nottingham Forest silly, or do fixtures and free hit make it an okay punt? So free hit 4, that's obviously the biggest problem. So the other 5 fixtures as a group are obviously fantastic from that perspective. So look, it's ballsy, Matt. It wouldn't be for me to go treble Forest, because I'd be way too concerned that you get let's just say they did have an overperformance last year, right? What if it swings the other way and you can move like 2 of them on? I think 2's enough. If anyone really wants to go double Forest defense, I don't mind that. Personally, I think the treble would be one step too far. I don't think it's necessary when at 5.5 you've got alternative options such as Porro, Munoz. At 5 million to Nico Williams, you've got Romero. Like, I think there are alternatives within some different teams. King of Mandalore says, best 2 4.5 million defender rotation. 1 must play every week. I mean, what's that till like game week 19, mate? I would, from that perspective, then I would be aiming for 2 defenders at that price that would probably be quite good for DEFCON. So I think Anderson probably stands out. I would consider Anderson and Agbadu maybe as a possibility in the 4.5 range. Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, Diouf. But I think Anderson, the reason I say DEFCON defenders, therefore, is if you've always got to play 1, right? Well, if it's a shit fixture, then okay. At least you've hopefully got a little bit of backup of that. Of course, Dorgu is a possibility. You might look at Fulham's fixtures. I go to Chelsea 3, which is when Dorgu's got Burnley at home. I'm not looking at it further ahead than that, mate. But very much recommend my planner, which is available on Slack via Patreon, Basic Plus tier and above. Cheers. Always FPL says Gakpo, Watkins and Fulkrug, or Rogers, Mateta and Bowen. Depends a little bit on the rest of your risk elements within your team. Because I think like Rogers, Mateta, Bowen are really solid picks. As are the other 3, but Gakpo and Fulkrug could become problems, I feel, in a few weeks, right? So if there's not many risks elsewhere, I prefer the Gakpo Watkins element to it. If there are other risks in your team, you've gone like more frimpongs and stuff like that, then the second option. Lemon says, hi James, as an FPL and Spurs expert. You got the wrong place. I wouldn't even call myself a Tottenham expert, mate. Never mind an FPL one. But passionate Tottenham, ain't no expert. Could you give me an opinion on if Porro is worth 0.5 more than Romero, or if not, is Romero worth 0.5 more than VDV? Yeah, we spoke about this on Correspondent Week. Ricky Saunders agrees with me that they've priced it correctly, as they've done with Munoz, Lacroix and Gay. So they're each worth the 0.5 more. What I've said about the Tottenham defenders is prioritise the different decisions in your team. If you have the luxury, like I've therefore done, to be able to go, yeah, do you know what? I'm happy to put Porro in. Take that. One of the reasons for me, Porro as well, is looking way further ahead to know that I'm closer to another 6 million defender, or also can swap that straight to Munoz, for example. Charlie XGX says, hi James, I'm torn badly here. Dewsbury Hall and Mateta, or Rogers and Goo plus 1 million in the bank. Best of luck for the season, mate. Can't really answer your question, I'm afraid, Charlie, because if you want Goo every week, I think that's probably going to be problematic. Therefore, the simple answer for me here is to go Dewsbury Hall and Mateta, right? You got 2 regular starters there. It depends whether you need it or not. All right, but probably the Mateta route. Greg Watson says Rodgers and Adebayo or Reinders and Cucurella. Adebayo could be great, right? And people have latched onto those Enzo Maresca comments from today. But we have to know that Chelsea are highly likely to buy another defender before this window closes. And therefore, actually, the safer alternative might be the Cucurella route. CMP says, last question, should I start Evan Nilsson or Dewsbury Hall? Thanks for the content. Good luck this season. No, to start Evan Nilsson, mate. Talisman. Chances on penalties as well tonight with Cliver unavailable. I'm not sure if it would be Evan Nilsson or Semenyo, but there's that possibility. So, yeah, I think if you were sent to me like Evan Nilsson or even like Reinders, bit closer, or Tielemans or something, I think versus Dewsbury Hall, I'd play my Talisman. I often say this with people like Jared Bowen, like not really comfortable benching against any team. And Liverpool have given up chances in their most recent friendlies, right? Bilbao scored there twice. Palace scored against them twice at the weekend. I think I'd play Evan Nilsson, mate. Next up is Sam Streak. Says, good to have you back, James. Team nearly locked in. What option do you prefer? Romero, Milenkovic, Tielemans, and João Pedro? Or Porro, Nico Williams, Anderson, and Bowen? I think if I'd have been picking a combination of that, I'd have been more likely the Porro Bowen option, I think. JP says, what do you think of the Liverpool triple up of Wirtz, Gakpo, Ekiteke instead of Salah? Yeah, fine. But as I've said, I think going Ekiteke and Gakpo could be a little bit dangerous. It's highly likely Isak will be there in time for game week 4. And at that point, you don't even know which one of Gakpo or Ekiteke becomes the problem. So I don't like having both. I think it's great for tonight. I think beyond that, it's potentially a problem. Aaron Hill says, hi, James. Is Mark Gura a risk of dropping in value if he doesn't become number 1? Or is he still something for, I think it's meant to be best, 4.5 million forward to go for, as not many would rush to replace a bench player like him. Yeah, I mean, exactly that. And what people are going to do, like thump to go from Goo to Krupi, like they're probably not, mate. So I wouldn't stress about it. Look, if Goo dropped to 4.4, as long as he's getting some minutes, people start buying him at 4.4, mate. So I wouldn't stress about that. That's kind of preempting a little bit of an understanding. Well, my wife's just sent me an FPL team. Should we rate it or slate it? It's not terrible. She's gone Salah and Haaland. Do you know what? Even though she has, it's not bad. I'll read it to you. Sanchez, Tarkovsky, Murillo, De Kuyper, Salah, Kudos, Reinders and Dye, Strand Larson, Watkins, Haaland, bench, Dubravka, Rodon, Gomez at Brighton, Estev. Like, it's all right, babe. It's all right. Listen, live streaming, babe, and that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. Not too bad. Josh King, 4.5 Fulham instead of Gomez, though, or Dewsbury Hall if you can afford. Love you, bye. Next up is Jason. Also, James, how much do you rate the Hub FPL tool? Rate my team. I love my team, but only got 81%. Never used it, mate. So I don't use things like that. I'm not against them, but I don't use things like that. So I can't tell you, mate. Eddie R says, hey, James, would you pick Sanchez, Dewsbury Hall, Watkins, or Kelleher, Rodgers, João Pedro? KDH would be a 7th attacker. Concerned that Sanchez to Kelleher may be a big downgrade. Cheers and good luck. I feel like you've answered your own question with your concern, Eddie. So if you're concerned it's a big downgrade, you're getting a player you don't really want. Don't do that game week 1. Get players you want. Billy Taylor says, I heard a rumour that if you don't smash a like, your captain is going to go on strike until he gets his dream move to an unspecified club. Huge if true. Right, well, you've heard Billy, guys. Smash a like, everyone. There are about 900 of you watching live. And as far as I can see, there's less than 150 of you smashed a like. Well, we can all do the maths, right? That's not a very high percentage, is it? All right, come on, guys. Smash a like. Don't cost anything. It's free content. And it'll be very much appreciated. King of Mandalore says, with Forest agreeing a deal for Douglas Luiz per Fabrizio Romano. Here we go. Is Anderson now an avoid due to minutes doubt? I don't think Anderson's a big minutes doubt. I think there might be an impact on him in terms of what the defcons might be and stuff. But no, I think you might see Gibbs White playing quite a deep role actually this weekend. And that would just free up Gibbs White, I think, to go back a bit more advanced. So no, but you should also be aware that Forest are trying to do quite a lot of bits. Louise, McAtee, Amari Hutchinson. I've heard forwards mentioned that would put all the other attacking Forest players off the table for me at this moment in time. A Wood says, afternoon, James. Thanks for such a fantastic preseason. As always, surprised that nobody was tempted by the Rutter gamble. Did you debate it, thoughts? Very much so. Yeah. Very, very, very much so. Considered Jorginho Rutter. Just the theory that I had with Sam Murray felt right when I discussed it with him, and we were concerned about rotation with the likes of O'Reilly going. It feels a bit better now if he goes. But my instinct then was that Rutter is a sort of player, if he does well, if he ends up OOP or even does quite well, people won't go to him because the fixtures with Brighton make it quite awkward to go and invest with them if you don't start with them. I feel stronger about that with them than any other team. So there was a pull on it, and I think I might be back for him around about game week 10. Yes, I was tempted, mate, very much so. I think ultimately I'm probably too safe, unfortunately. Matt Maher says, boring question, but Goo or Krupi? I would still go Go because I think there is the possibility, and by the way, I think Sunderland will buy another number 9 because they're buying someone every day at the moment. But I think there is the possibility that Goo becomes the 9. I don't think we could be certain that that's the case, even if Evan Nilsson got injured again. Remember, think a little bit longer term, you'll be out of your mind, but Enes Unal had a really bad injury, and he's probably going to be back, we think, circa about game week 5-6. So I'd still prefer Go, mate. Stevie J10 says, hi, James. Final dilemma is Aït-Nouri and Rodgers versus Nico Williams and Cunha. Bench boost 1, free hit 2. Also, do you prefer Aït-Nouri or Cucurella? I've said that Cucurella would be my out if Van Dijk isn't playing tonight, for example, for whatever reason. That would be my out. So I think at this moment it probably would be a Cucurella preference, and then can look at Aït-Nouri again in game week 6, for example. I think in terms of your other dilemma, yes, I prefer the Aït-Nouri and Rodgers route as well, mate. Mitchell Joseph says, hi James, what are your thoughts about the prevalence of 3-5-2 in the community? I understand the DEFCON side of it, but I think the pool of forwards is much stronger, so can't look past 3 up top. Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement in the forward aspect. I think the 3-5-2 is being quite heavily influenced by the Salah teams. I'm also not that high on the midfield group below Rodgers. It's a question I've been asking Fred, like, who do you really like below 7 million? It's nothing massively, which is why for the cheapest one, I've come right below Dewsbury Hall for it, right? So, no, I said on Monday's podcast that I couldn't foresee the front 3 changing. I've not kind of wavered on that for 3 weeks, really, I don't think, in terms of that being my front 3. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. Pretty much so, actually. But it's fine. In terms of what's being said in the community, unfortunately, I don't get to listen or watch too much other content, so it's not for me to speak of, but many different ways to play the game, my friend. Go and tell your mates. I want to see current viewers. Oh, it has just hit 1,000 live viewers. I think that might be a deadline stream first, except for that time the Champ Man community, remember when I got invaded with 20,000 viewers live. Mitchell Joseph says, hi James, I've done that. Ken Hughes says, hi James, love your work as always. Who will start in goal for Brentford if Kelleher is out? And back for Everton. Thanks and good luck. Valden Marson would start if it's not Kelleher. Back four for Everton, I think, will be O'Brien, Keane, Tarkowski, and Mikolenko. If he doesn't make it, then Asnu will probably play left back. Ken Hugh I've just done. JP says, thoughts on Cherky. Will he start, and how long do you reckon he'll be in 11 before Foden returns? Is fit enough? Cherky's a baller. Certainly a talent. There's not much doubt about that. And I do have him in my predicted City lineup for this weekend, but I wouldn't start with him for fantasy, mate. Always FPL says, would you bench boost with Verbruggen, Reinders, Diouf, and Anderson of Fulham? Yeah, I think so, mate. It's pretty good. Nihar says Munoz / Williams / Roden, or Milenkovic, Anderson, and De Kuyper, or any other 4.5 open to it. Cheers and good luck, mate. Yeah, I don't mind the top one. And in fact, the second one's okay as well. I'm not sure how much you'll use De Kuyper, maybe because of what I said about the Brighton fixtures across the first 9. So look, I mean, I've gone Konza. It's a shit pick, but it works for me on my rotations. And I spoke about this on Ask James yesterday, that the right 4.5 choice isn't just necessarily there's the definitive best 4.5. It's when do you need it, right? When do you need it and when do you want to use it? Like if I had to pick someone I think I was going to use every single week, I probably would have gone Joachim Anderson, because I think they're not too bad defensively, although I think they only kept 5 clean sheets last year. And he could be decent for the DEFCON, so I'd go more down that route. But ultimately, I want Conser in like 3 weeks where there's really 3 really good fixtures, right? So there's the influence of that. Next up is Stefan P. Hello, James. Would you go Palmer, Larson, and Go plus 4.0 defender, or Rogers, Pedro, Fulkrug plus a 4.5 defender? No intention to captain Palmer, but ownership is a little scary, to be honest. Good luck for the season. You're asking the wrong person if you're scared of ownership, mate, because I ain't got Mo, mate. I'd take Palmer on. And actually, if I had gone Salah, I wouldn't have Palmer. That was what I'd really looked hard at last weekend, was having Salah. It would have been taking Palmer out, and it would have been taking Wirtz out for me as well. And I looked at plenty of options on that. So if I'd have gone Salah, I'd have taken Palmer out. So I prefer the other option. Voice Vertus says, hi, James. What do you think is the ideal price to spend for each position, in your opinion? As in a total cost? Well, let's see here. So I've got to spend on my forwards of 24.5 million, I believe. On my goalkeepers, 9 million. On my defenders, looks like it's 26. And then the rest on midfielders, I think that's pretty perfect. Adrian Cook says, welcome back. Thoughts on Rodgers and Reinders versus Gakpo and Keenan Dewsbury Hall / Sarr? Well, I've got Gakpo and Keenan Dewsbury Hall, so it'd be weird if I said the alternative, wouldn't it? But I've got no Mo Salah, so that's a big influence on that, I think. Because otherwise, maybe the other one. Ricky Saunders, my Tottenham correspondent, says, hello, beautiful. Hope you're well, mate. I'm on the hunt for an extra 0.5 to upgrade Estev. Would you take Sanchez down to a 4.5 or 8 Nori to a 5.5, or neither and just keep Stave? I'd arguably do both, Ricky. Get Porro in, get a Forest defender, get Sanchez to Perry. You think that the Chelsea are going to keep many clean sheets versus Leeds? This is sarcasm. But I would consider that, Ricky. Yeah. It's like a 2% chance. But what if Chelsea just go, yeah, bollocks, we're going to take Donnarumma? Like, yeah, it's them, isn't it? Don't rule it out. Kalen says, hey, you got 0.5 and plan to bench boost with Dubravka, Diouf, Rodon, Fulkrug. Yeah, it seems fair enough. Could upgrade to a 4.5 goalkeeper for Brugge and start a Fulkrug to Strand Larson, or hold the 0.5 for greater flex later. What do you think? Sorry, I'm big. Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying you were going to go Dubravka up to Verbruggen. The danger is, we're saying Dubravka maybe 80% chance of starting. There's an element to that. If you're not bothered, I mean, the other three is pretty good, isn't it? 2 West Ham players against Sunderland, Rodon, home fixture. That's fine. I just can foresee a Fulkrug becoming an issue. But I don't think West Ham will buy another forward. But I just think if Wilson can get himself fit, I think that's a better fit stylistically for Potterball. I've said this a number of times, and I'd be a little bit conscious of that. That said, West Ham fans are saying Fulkrug's had a good pre-season. He seems pretty fit. If you can deliver to him in the right areas in the penalty box, he can be dynamite. So I would probably still go the Fulkrug route. A man Khan says, hi James, I'm not sure to go for Marmoush or Gakpo for the first couple of game weeks. Marmoush is easier to come off if I want the United lads in game week 3. Are you spending all the money? Just go Gakpo and leave the money. Have you got to spend it? Elron Cupboard says, would you rather pull off Gittins or Pedro for Liam Delap? I don't know why, mate. It just sounded dirty when I read that out loud. As in, what, substitute? Well, it doesn't matter what I think. It's what Enzo Maresca thinks, isn't it? So I've not seen Gittins in a Chelsea shirt yet, so it's not really, I can't really comment, mate. But I would think that João Pedro probably is quite restricted minutes. But he's shown in those restricted minutes what he can do. Burke says, hi James, last debate for me, Rodgers and João Pedro versus Anderson and Watkins. Thoughts, cheers. Watkins route, mate. AC Mannion says, hi James, with the Vardio injury news, which combo is best assuming I'm wildcard 4? Kudos Williams Sanchez, or Elliot Anderson, Ray and Eight Nori Sells. Probably the Eight Nori one. I don't have either. Stephen Howard says, hi James, would you go Welbeck or Strand Larson? Good luck for the new season. Strand Larson, because I know that's talisman. We can't even be certain Welbeck starts. JP says, thoughts on Tosin and Sanchez double up. I've kind of spoken about both of those players, so I'm going to crack on, mate. FPL Ibro says, hey, James, good to be back. Rutter and Fulkrug or Rogers and Go. Aim is to bench boost in game week 2, but could delay if no Go. Good luck. Then I think that it's the other option. It's the Rutter Fulkrug, mate. What, Brighton 2, Everton away? Yeah, it's fine. Jay Barker says, shit, here we go again, James. Would you bench boost? Dubravka, Evan Nilsson, Dorgu, and Anderson. That's Joachim Anderson. I'm just wondering, Jay, I can't see your team, but I'm trying to work out how your bench wouldn't look better next week. Unless you've got such heavy coverage of like Tottenham and bits of Leeds, maybe West Ham. Yeah, okay, there could be options where it doesn't look as good next week. But I'd probably be looking if next week is better, mate. Joe Pickle says, are you reading into anything about the Savinho injury? I personally hope you pay us the 70 million we can go and hopefully get Rodrigo. That'd be good. I'll take Savinho and Eze, and you take Rodrigo and leave Arsenal with nothing. Yeah, I'll shake hands on that. Steamroller says, let's go. Milenkovic header. You might have to wait a couple of days. Paige Turner says, James, you've given me so many tips. I would love to give you one. When you're asking how to pronounce a player's name, you often say, what's the pronunciation? But it should be, what's the pronunciation? Paige, I said this to someone on Twitter the other week. I can't even say my wife's name properly. I got no chance with footballers. Kasim says, hi James, should I play back four of Diouf, Nico Williams, Cucurella and Van der Ven, or start Keenan Dewsbury Hall, but I don't know for which one. I also believe that this year's winner would have optimal 8.5 to 5.0 attackers. No, I'd play all those defenders over Dewsbury Hall. FPL Lighthouse says, hi James, is Dewsbury Hall and Anderson cheating out too much in midfield? Thanks for the great content. Depends if your big hitters do well enough, right? Ultimately, if you smash it with a captaincy, Salah, Haaland, and whichever kind of mid-premium to big premium players you've got do well, then it's going to be fine, and it ain't going to matter too much what those consistent boys do. Be fine. But it says, hey mate, start Rice or Fulkrug. Statabrat says Diouf or VDV or Dorgu for what, mate? 1, 2, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 19 weeks. Like longer term, if I had to pick one right now for 12 weeks, I'd probably go Diouf. Vandy Maggi says, hello, all the best for the season, everyone, and to you. Petty92 says, is Petrovic and Jose Sarr game week 1 bench boost worth it? I love their fixtures after this. Could it just drop better? I've not looked at that combination thoroughly enough. Could it just drop better? That's the only thing I would ask to that. Like, is the rest of your team significantly worse in another week? You couldn't really pick two worse fixtures than this week, right? I mean, they play each other in 2. Can it just land better in another week? I don't hate it. They're both going to play. And if one of them keeps a clean sheet, you'll probably return really well out of it. But I'd probably want to look at something else personally. Daniel Mackey says, hi James, who would be your top few 4.5 defenders over the whole season? Ignore fixtures. I've covered a few 4.5s, Daniel, so thank you, but I'm going to skip that, mate. Always FPL says, is playing 2 of Reinders, Fulkrug and Rutter each week viable? Of course it is, mate. Steve Greenwell says, 7th, 8th attackers, Sarr/Go or Dewsbury Hall, Strand Larson. I'm going to assume that's Ismaila Sarr, must be. The safer option is the second one, till we know more about how Mark Goo fits in. Shani Razzle says, Big James, I need this more than ever. A solid, I really mean this, noggin rub to bring us luck from the FPL gods. Gone triple Liverpool attack, no Salah, gonna need it. Good luck, mate. I mean a special one because I'm with you, pal. Dragon Yosiowski says 0.5 short. Downgrade Sells to 4.5. Porro to Romero or Murillo to Williams. Looking to lay wildcard at least until 7. Cheers, Romero. Daniel Scar says, hi, James. Jew Orifa Bowen and a 4.5. Sorry. Bellon came to brag. I'm starting 4.5 million King in my starting 11. I wish you luck. I hope you took that tip from Correspondent Week. I do think he'll start. Tricky Tree says Dewsbury Hall should tick along for an affordable 5 million option, right? Yeah, my team says so. Not that I plan to start him much. Gary says, hi James, best of luck in the season ahead. If you had to pick between Van der Ven or Spencer, I'm assuming that's meant to be Jed Spence, for a bench boost, who would you go with? Or would a different bollocks? I've lost my place in the chat. Sorry. And if you're watching in the Warwick Arms in Clacton, I'm particularly sorry. Close to children's ears. Would you go, or would a different 4.5 be better 1 week only? Mickey, mate, Look, Mickey, I would say Mickey's 90% to start, and I would say the same for Jed Spence. There isn't a reason to pick Spence over one of the centre backs at this moment. None. There isn't. Nictarius 94 says Milenkovic or Murillo. It's a clue. My team, top right hand corner, mate. I'll go Murillo. I like my chips chunky. Rhett says too crazy to avoid Liverpool defence and triple up on Wirtz, Gakpo, and the Egyptian King. Thank you again for all the pre-season material. Smash a like. I mean, you're going to put in 3 brilliant attacking players, Rhett. It's fine, mate. Bengal Bram says, hi, James. Would you start Frimpong and Kirkis or Frimpong and Aina? I don't think I'd be going double Liverpool defence. And the particular danger with that one is game week 4 and Slot just goes, no, I fucking might give Bradley and Robertson a run out here. I wouldn't want both of them at this moment. Thomas Thornton says, I'm all locked in, mate. Finally got myself a Mickey. Bench boost, here we come. Good luck. Cheers for all the help. Best show on the net. Thank you, mate. Ali says, okay to use bench boost on Verbruggen, Rodon, Anderson, Strand, Larson. Yeah, it's okay. If you want me to jump hoops for it, I'm not going to, but it's okay. Ed Summers says, Verbruggen over Petrovic as long-term 4.5 keeper. It's essentially the choice that I've made, mate. My choice wasn't made just on this game week, mate, because I'd have happily bench boosted with the Bravco if I had a higher than 80% probability of thinking he'd start. Thank you to Scotty for your message if you're watching along. For our patrons, reminder, please tag me on Slack if we've got any good, reliable, please double check sources for Liverpool team news tonight. Yes, Rosette, I'd mentioned this on the team news stream earlier, and I'm aware of it. I'm sure you'll live. Ottoman says Keenan, Dewsbury Hall and Murillo versus Reinders and Nico Williams. My team, top right hand corner, mate. Sebo Slices, thoughts on roast, going roast, Rogers, Ekiteke versus Sanchez, Wirtz, Strand, Larson. Quite like it, actually. The one and only Smith says, why did it seem very little interest in Gordon? Surely starts as striker. And on Penos, Villa Newcastle games often high scoring. And the Liverpool game could be great for him as well, mate. But are we absolutely certain that when Newcastle buy a cut the forwards that Anthony Gordon is definitively ahead of Harvey Barnes and Alanga? Are we sure about this? Watch him brief, I think. Watch him brief. Chris Ewers says, hi, James. What are the main goalkeeper pairings for bench boost? 1, free hit 2 strategy. Wildcard late. What I've done all day. Like for Bruggen, and I'm quite high on Lucas Perry. These fixtures are absolutely brilliant. If you free hit game week 2. The worst fixture that they've got on my ticker, basically, if you remove game week 2, I think it's probably Forest away in 11. Forest away in 11, Newcastle at home 3. It's as bad as it gets. It's fine. Sebo Slice says, thoughts on Roves, done that. Patrick Groff Broaderson, evening all. Do you prefer Reinders and a 5 million Reinders to play? Reinders to play. Plus a 5 million defender or 8 Nori and a 4.5 mid, 8 Nori to play. I like Josh King as the 4.5 option that's got a potential bit of upside. If you plan it as part of a bench boost, probably every chance is going to be problematic. If it were me, I think I'd have gone the 8 Nori route. Downstairs says, evening legend, thanks for the superb summer of content. Seems Rogers is okay now. Should we be considering him again? I'm tempted, but we'll mean ripping up a fair bit of my team. Cheers and good luck. Yeah, Rogers was in every one of my draft before the injury concern. I think it then it did me a favour. I think it opened up my eyes to look more at defensive players, and that's what I've really been focusing on over the last week or so. And I'm pretty happy with my selections there. I'm also keen, as I said, like, listen, if in 10 minutes it's like legitimately Cody Gakpo's not playing, I'm going to take him out and I'm going to put Morgan Rogers in. So that's how much he is still very much under consideration for me. Hayden Mapstone says, hey mate, have you considered Sanchez and Rodon versus your Verbruggen and Konsa? Yep. Yeah, I looked at drafts with all of them. I really looked at defenders, mate, and keepers. Shakip says, game week 2 bench boost. Which striker under 6 need for the first 2 ages? Which striker under 6? So we got to go to 5.5. They're all shit, mate. I would go and spend more money somewhere else for a different starter. That's legitimately my answer. Fancy Fluker says, great to be back. Have a great season, James. You too. Ollie Thomas says, would Solanke in game week 1 bench boost squad be too much risk and prefer him as a long-term pick over Bowen? Alternatively, start with Bowen and move at some later. Yeah, I don't even think Solanke is start, pal. As long as Richarlison's recovery is okay, deserves to play again. Update from the wife. She can afford Dewsbury. Looks like Josh from Holiday Club, but then I'll have 3 Everton players. Seems a bit 2-2. Yeah, you're right. 3 Everton is a bit 2-2, but then you could also bin and die for Dewsbury Hall maybe, and then put some money elsewhere. That's a different possibility that you could maybe consider. Just saying. Hashtag love you, bye. Martin Taylor, latest on Dubravka. I'm going to say 80% he starts. That seems to be general vibe from Burnley fans. They know more about it than me. It's too risky for me. Daniel Scar says, sorry, I mistyped my last message. Do you prefer Bowen and a 4.5 defender I can rotate, or Evan Nilsson and Tarko? Bowen. Taylor Bernard, hi James, great month for content. I'm starting Dewsbury Hall. Is this right call, or should I find 0.5 for Rangers? Already have Anderson starting and no bench. Gone top heavy. I understand that. Look, I think he'll tick over fine. I do. I don't think it's going to be thrilling, mate, but I think you'll get what you expect from a 5.0. If you're hoping he's going to be like this year's Rodgers, I think the pricing's been done to make that level really difficult, which is credit to FPL Towers, by the way. But I think he's the best one at that price. Fred Yilden says, rank the 4.5 million goalies top 3, please. Love your work, Coys. Good luck. Verbruggen, Perry, Petrovic. Primarily as well because we don't know who's going to play in goal for West Ham. Taylor, I've done. Fred, I've done. Zutians, hi James, good luck. Great to be back. Have your input. Thank you, mate. Good luck. Thomas Thornton, so many streams tell people they have to have certain players. So anger-inducing. I play it my way. That's the right way, is to play it your way, mate. But don't get angry with other people for the way they make their content. Josh Horrobin says, James, RMT, don't do RMTs, mate. I'm really sorry. I love you lots. I wish you the best of luck. By the time I've read half the names, I've forgotten the other half, mate. So I'm sorry. Wish you best of luck, mate. Sean Kelly says, I've gone triple Spurs defense. Yeah, number 1 in the world tomorrow, mate. Good luck. That's all I've got to say. Gravana Gruss says, what are your ranks in the past seasons? I finished 51k last year. God, year before. 107k, I think, year before. You can find it. I don't know my team ID, but it's nothing to write home about, mate. It's shit. It's nothing. I normally finish about 100k, mate. So if you're like, oh, I come here because I want you to be the best FPL manager, I'm not, mate. I'm not. But I might give some good advice. Like, do what I say, not what I do, kind of, right? Bradley says, Anderson, Rangers, or Dewsbury Hall. If you're going for 5.5, if I could have gone 5.5, I'd have gone 1. I possibly would have started with Anderson and gone the safety route, maybe, I think. Liam Preston says, Gakpo and Dewsbury Hall, or Rodgers and Rangers. Gakpo. De Paria, sorry if I mispronounced that. Bench boost 1 as well. Looking for replacement of Perry since I already have Rodon. Suggestion needed. Go with both. It's fine. Go with both. I was close to that. DeRuv says, hi James, does the Vardio injury make you more interested in Strand Larson for Gameweek 1? I heard that others 6.5, less actually. Because if it's like Diaz and Akanji in terms of actually dealing with him, I think that's better. That's not to say he's not part of City's best team, it's just a specific matchup. Ollie Thomas says, hi James, would Solanke in game? I've done that. Bellon says, Jose Sai's best pick and goal. Good luck with that. Wush says, Gakpo and Romero already have Porro versus Ndiaye and 8 Nori. Yeah, Gakpo Romero. Hazy93 says, hi James, what are your thoughts on this dilemma? Rodgers and Pedro versus Wirtz and Fulkrug. Rodgers and Pedro. Martin King says, lock in before it crashes. Yeah, good advice, Martin. It is 15 minutes to deadline, guys. Let's not pretend that FPL ain't had some fucking troubles this week. Sorry to those in the Warwick for swearing again. I'm on the big screen, I think. That's what I heard was the rumour. Like, sack off Sky Sports, innit? Get James on YouTube. Yeah. Like, if you'd like, oh, I'm still on auto pick, like, get it kind of sorted would be the advice. Reminders to our patrons, drop me a tag if we've got anything. I'd be surprised. The only, I think, question marks really on the Liverpool team tonight is maybe in terms of the composition of midfield. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 from Szoboszlai, McAllister, Jones. Otherwise, I'm pretty confident in the rest of the team, I think. Marv FPL says, hi James. Is Conser the best 4.5 defender if I need to play them every week for the first 8? Cheers. First 8 is not bad because their fixtures are pretty good over that. So, yes, but it's not thrilling. I think if you're looking over that period, then yeah, it probably is better than, say, Anderson. So, yeah. James Noble. Hi, James. What is your plan for Game Week 3 with Liverpool? My 3 Liverpool players. Play them. They're at home. Is that because, they're playing Arsenal? Bloody game at Anfield, mate. Playing. Morecambe says, thoughts on Solanke? I've done that. FPL team, my man's in. My partner in crime says, hello, buddy. Miss you. Looking forward to another season together. Thank you, mate. Forever partners. Get yourself on FPL team. It's the only bit of FPL content I can't do without, mate. I don't know what I'd do without it. I'm genuinely not just saying it. I don't know what I would do without FPL team. Elliot, I don't know how I coped beforehand. I did. I must have wrote shit down or it went on Excel. FPL team is the bollocks. Elliot says, Dorgu or Truffer would mean 2 Bournemouth defence. Dorgu. Kick about FPL. Hi, James. Bowen or Rogers first 10 game weeks. Good luck with the season. I don't think either are for all of it. If it's got to be all of it, arguably Bowen should be, though, for $1 million more, right? And I think as well from Bowen, you'll find you can move around to João Pedro, Mateta, something like that, if you prefer. So I think Bowen. God, sweating. Sinew Alchemo. Sebastian Alchemo. Sorry, mate. Why Solanke is not expected to start? He's played like 65 minutes of pre-season, mate. And Richarlison, who I'm a huge critic of, was brilliant on Wednesday night. He deserves to play again. Chris Bruce says, don't know if you remember it, but I was on a stag do last day of the season. It is his wedding today. Great timing. Well, Chris, I hope you enjoy yourself. I do remember. Tell the groom, commiserations. KF26 says, hi, big man. I hope you're well. Defenders of Porro, 4.5 and a 4 million locked in, considering Gabriel and Williams or Milenkovic and Munoz. Thoughts? Milenkovic and Munoz to start. Catherine says, hi, James. Best goalkeeper pairing with Sells, 4.5 to spend. I don't love that. But generally, I actually think for what I want, and that's the influence, looking at 12 game weeks, I think Perry. And I think it dawned on me right at the end of the final correspondent week podcast when I was discussing it with Spencer about Rofes and Perry being completely overlooked because there's like 4.0 options and they both might be okay. Neil Kagan would like everyone to hit the like. Yeah, let's do a like count, everyone. Says over 1,000 you watching, 432 or so likes. So that's about 40% of you. Now, let's get that above 50%. Don't cost that. Come on, it's free stream. Just put your finger on the thumb. D.80 says, hi, James. Porro and Tielemans and Van der Ven and Rogers. Rogers route. FPL Cam, Gakpo and Rutter and Murillo or Verts, Reinders, Williams. Prefer option 1. But it's probably an influence by looking at my team because there's 2 players there in option 1. There's only 1 in the second one. JS says, Salah, Saka, Pedro or Gakpo, Palmer, Haaland. That's a proper juicy one. Salah, Saka, Pedro, or Gakpo, Palmer, Haaland. Gakpo, Palmer, Haaland. Genuinely, I think Gakpo and Pedro is close to start, and I think there's a risk element to both. Gakpo can still give you the Liverpool involvement versus Salah. I do think Salah over Haaland is better across the front, but you could just go with Haaland and be ahead of the movements in Game Week 6. Palmer over Saka is pretty clear for me at the start. So, yeah, actually, Gakpo, Palmer, Haaland. I can't think I would have started with option 1 there. Option 2, if I really felt it with Haaland, yeah, I could have. But neither. Yeah. Tommaso Salvadori says, hi, James. Anderson or Kudos, Gay or Richard. Who's Richard? I don't. Is this maybe Elliot Anderson or Kudos or Gay or Chris Richards? Doesn't make sense the way you've like clubbed that in, mate. Kudos is fine as a short term, but I keep repeating he hasn't looked like scoring in a single game yet for Tottenham. I can't think he's nearly had a shot. When he had a half a chance first half the other night, he just snatched at it. Dana J says, hi, James. Why Murillo and Milenkovic when both had DEFCON in these 6 fixtures last season, apart from Arsenal, and I might play them in that fixture anyway. Also, Milenkovic more attacking. Do you know why, mate? Because I spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours thinking that I like chunky chips. And so I just went for Murillo, mate. Chris Bruce says, thanks for the awesome content you're providing. Close season Patreon member now, loving it. Please support the show. www.patreon.com/planetfpl. I want to see 800 paying patrons by the end of today. You can support the show from as little as £3 a month. That'll get you no ad, early releases, audio podcasts, and YouTubes, except the live streams. I can't obviously release them earlier. There. More on Patreon at Deadline. BMAX says Rodgers and Van der Ven or Reinders and Pedro Porro. Rodgers, Van der Ven, mate. Nothing coming in as far as I can see in terms of suggested links. Just checking a few things. Yeah, patrons, reminder, please tag me because there's too many messages for me to read through. So I appreciate a tag if there is anything on Liverpool. We are circa 7 and a bit minutes away from deadline, guys. So do think of getting those teams locked in. If you've got a bench boost active, make sure it's active. If you've been playing around with that sort of shit, you don't want it active, check that it's not active. If you're triple captain, make sure it's active or it's not active. Check your bench order. Just do it all now, guys. Vian Maggi, thoughts on Tanaka from Leeds as a 5 million pick? Would prefer stack is the word I'm hearing. I ain't seen him play. I can't really comment. Elliot says, play Petrovic or Dubravka. Petrovic saving a penalty from Salah tonight. Vitme says, James, you bench boosting. Yeah, it's blue lines giveaway, mate, on the screen. Hi, James. This is from Faris. Thoughts on Kudus long-term pick? Terrible. Genuinely at the moment, terrible. Louis says, I'm captain Haaland and taking a punt on Xhaka and Kilman. Okay. Danajay, you've already asked that, mate, once, as if it wasn't like a shitty enough question the first time. Wish you luck for the season, my friend. Smash a like on your way out. Gavin Richardson, hope you're well. Andrew Sands, plans for another dad pop around the international break? Yes, being dad-free for patrons will be planned over the September period. It's a little bit subject to certain things. Again, I'll speak about this once the deadline's gone. Thank you, Greg. Declan says, hi, do you think I should go from Wan-Bissaka or Diouf, and is Wilson a good option? Harry Wilson, depends if you're asking. Ask Lewis James to tell you it's fucking brilliant. I'm not so keen on that personally. I would go Wan-Bissaka, but it depends when you need it. Like, if he was going to play every week, he'd probably chase Diouf, probably, yeah. I think Suja's gone colder on it the closer we've got. He's his team. He'd probably say Diouf. Kenneth Vaz says, will Palmer or Haaland score more over the first 6 weeks? Also, Murillo or Malenkovic been switching for ages. Help, please. Well, probably Haaland, innit? But so he bloody should for 3.5 million more, pal. Zajala says, hi, James. You give me your whole team. Sales, Porro, Frimpong, Dewsbury, Hall, João Pedro. Or Virgil van Dijk, Konsa, Bruno, Fulkrug and Sales. First one. Elliot says, Marlon, Arias or Reinders for the long term. John Arias I've got in a couple of plans for me, but I don't think you can start with. So I think if he had to be one of them to start, it'd be Reinders, actually. Poker Life says, can't believe I ended up with 2 Spurs defenders. Shake my head. I can't either. Marcus Lewis says, I'm without Salah. I'm thinking of snubbing Rodgers to put Frimpong in and use Marlon instead. Any better options at 5.56? I like the Rutter punt, but I wasn't brave enough to do it myself. Anderson, Reinders, Arias, 5.5. Players just mentioned. People are going to be making similar decisions with similar faults, right? It's fairly obvious. Chris Sutton says, unbelievable team news I'm hearing for tonight's Premier League opener for the FPL community. Very unexpected, but I'm going to keep it to myself. Just be careful is all I'm saying. Still time to join the toughest FPL out there. And he's put a code in. Yeah, I think he's just trying to gain a bit of attention for his mini league there, Mr. Chris Sutton. That's my instinct on that. But this is Chris Sutton, the former Premier League footballer who works for BBC Radio, I'm assuming now. I'd be amazed if he's got it and others haven't. Imagine Salah's benched. What a start. Gavin Richardson says, happy with my team, but no 0.5 million. Please don't take those words literal. Yes, I know people panic. Gavin Richardson says, happy with my team, but no 0.5 million spare. Can I either drop Porro to Romero or Dewsbury Hall to King? Thoughts, and at what point will Rutter come up on Nico's corner? Probably, mate. I don't think you need the 0.5. I think the choices you're making there, Gavin, are right. So I'm not dropping either Porro or Dewsbury. So I'm not quite sure. Like, if you feel like you need it because you need the 0.5 in the bank, I don't. And I'm making the same choices as you. If you need to drop one or the other, I would go Porro to Romero. Joseph says, hi, James. Would you replace Milenkovic and Richards for Aït-Nouri and Goodmanson with Perry behind the sticks? Probably not, no. NMR11 says, James, given you've got Gakpo higher than Wirtz on the captaincy matrix, do you also see him as a better pick? No, not necessarily. Someone asked me on Twitter, and I explained it like this. So someone said, why Gakpo captain over Wirtz? And I said, I know what Cody Gakpo's record at Anfield can be. His returns at Anfield are largely very good. Florian Wirtz could be an absolutely brilliant FPL asset, right? But he might also end up being a bit like Odegaard. Like, it's too soon for me. I've not seen anything in the preseason that makes me scream, Wirtz captain. I know Cody Gakpo could have a night at Anfield where he ends up with like an assist and 2 goals or something like that. Like, he's capable. I don't know if that's there for Wirtz yet. So, but longer term, Wirtz consistency, less concern of being rotated, all those things. No, Wirtz. Tonight, Cody Gakpo for me, under a circumstance where Bournemouth are probably playing a right back who's trying to force his way in as first choice, and a new right-sided centre back who's never played for the club before. Like, Gakpo's movement at the back post is brilliant. It's a 1 week thing right now. 2 minutes to deadline, guys. There is no information as far as I can see in terms of Liverpool team news to share. Again, shout out for our patrons. If we get anything, let us know. But at this stage, guys, you really need to be getting yourselves locked in. Planting Seeds, Jimbo, Baleba on Nonto. Neither. It does look like Baleba's going to start at Brighton. Stay at Brighton. That seems to be the info. He should start if he's overcome a minor knee problem he had. I think Nonto might not be first choice for Leeds when the transfer window shuts. But it's a more exciting pick. Hoodles Bootlickers. Hi, James. If I go bench boost, free hit and wild card, how many free transfers do I have in game week 4? Good luck, mate. 1. So you'd have 1 for next week. Then you don't carry another one. Then you don't carry another one. So 1, I think. I think I've got that right. Questioning myself. Ahmed says Ismail Sarr and Pape Sarr or Damsgaard and Arias. They're SARS, mate. Danny Kirk, Captain Palmer, Wirtz or Ekiteke. There's a captaincy graphic if you want to have a look at it. GE says, do you have a league code we can join? Yeah, probably, but I can't remember what it is at the moment. I'll chat it out on a different podcast at some point. No one really cares, do they? LZIFB5. Okay, look, I'll put it in the chat. LZIFB5. Sorry, I'm old. It takes me time to type things. P. Macker says, better team than mine, you misses. Yeah, maybe. Ricky, I already answered your question, didn't I? Tommaso Salvati. Hi, James. Anderson or Kudos, Gay or Richards? I feel like I already answered that one. Did I ended up in a different place? But it doesn't matter because it's 6:30 p.m. and the deadline's gone. There's nothing more that you can do, people, except that the game is still open. It is legitimately at this moment. It is, yeah. FPL is still open at the moment. So we've been here before. We had this 1 week last year, didn't we? To be honest, with the trouble they've been having, I'm not that surprised. Should we keep going then till they close it? I'll just keep refreshing it. Where was I at? Sorry, I did lose my place anyway. Ed Thomas for Bruggen over Petrovic, fine. GG Magpie, Porro, Rutter, VDV and Rogers. Bellon, FH AI rating is worthless. Yeah, fine, it might be good, might not be. It's not my bag. Liv J says, just a shout out to excellent preseason. Very helpful content throughout the season. Good luck, everyone. Thank you. Ricky, I did answer your question, didn't I? I think I answered it. Sarah says Gakpo and Dyer or Wirtz and Anderson. Gakpo and Dyer or Wirtz and Anderson. I don't think it matters because now I do believe that the game is locked. We think so. Hopefully it saved our teams. I would have said Verts and I would have said Gakpo and Anderson and spend $1 million somewhere else is probably what I'd have said. Thank you, guys. Sorry to those of you I didn't get through questions. Brilliant to see so many of you in live. Shout out as well for anyone who's at FF Fest tonight. I hope you're having a great time. If you came just for the FPL stuff, guys, I hope you enjoy the football tonight. I hope you have a great FPL season. Smash a like. Hit the sub button on your way out. For those who want to carry on the stream for another 15 minutes or so, pop in any non-FPL question. I'm not doing any more fantasy. Any non-FPL questions, happy to cover a few off till sort of 7:15. Then I want to go home and see my son and her as well. Content. I have to tell you that I don't know if I can do the deadline stream next week or not. The plan is to do it, but I won't know till shortly before if I can do it or not. So I want to be open and honest about that. I'm starting jury service on Wednesday. It will take me about 45 minutes to get from there to here. If I get out early enough, I will do the deadline stream. I don't know. It's Friday for a bank holiday. I'm quite hopeful I'll be able to leave early. But if I leave at 5, it's not going to be worth my while. So I'm not going to know till very late if I can do it or not. I want to be open and honest about that. Remember, the deadline for Gameweek 3's moved. It's now going to be a Saturday morning. That's because the Villa Crystal Palace fixture from the Friday night has moved to the Sunday evening. This jury service is going to play a little bit of havoc with me in terms of planning for content. I'm going to have to do stuff primarily recording it, go to jury service, record stuff in the evening, and then have it scheduled for the next day. So it's going to look a little bit different for as long as I'm there, which I'm hoping is at a maximum 2 weeks and hopefully less. But it does mean it's a little bit up in the air in terms of bits of content. But in the volume of it, and hope the quality of it will still be similar to what it normally is. Game Review podcast will be on Monday. I haven't quite decided what the rest of the week's going to look like. I can tell you Clash the Correspondence, Burnley and Sunderland with Jack and Spence will be out on Thursday or Friday. I don't know which day yet. I haven't quite decided. Arse James will be an awkward one for me to fit in next week, but I'm going to try and find a way to do that. So bear with me is all I ask in terms of the content. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl, and the content will certainly continue over there. You have access to no ads and early release content from basic tier. Basic Plus gets you into mini leagues and also gets you into our Slack community and an additional podcast a week. Intermediate Plus tier gets you all the podcasts. It gets you one bit of advanced tier content as well. And advanced tiers get all the additional jazz as well, which I must be open and honest with them and say that might come in written form a little bit more over the next couple of weeks because I might have to I'll probably work and write stuff while I'm waiting at jury service. I don't know. I'm going to do my best. But if you can support the show, it'd be truly appreciated. If you enjoyed pre-season, if you think we're worth supporting, do it because you want to support the show or because you want to have access to the additional content. I say the same thing every single year. I do not promise to make anybody a better FPL manager. If that is your sole goal of being here, there are better FPL managers out there than me. I would rather give people the advice, but ultimately tell people to play it their way. If you can support the show, we'd love to have you join us. www.patreon.com/planetfpl. Right, let's do some non-FPL. Ryan saying good luck. Trinjar saying good luck. Hope you all come second. Neil K, good luck. PK is laughing. Hunter type saying only 9.4 million managers. Didn't help that no one could get on the bloody website on Wednesday. Probably, well, sod that. Sean G says really looking forward to cloud fantasy football this year. Come on, people, still got 1.5 hours to get your team locked in. On that as well, thank you for reminding me, Sean. I do recommend 6:45. If you want to have a look at Cloud FF, which is kind of a takeover from the previous Sky Fantasy football game, jump over to Ian Parrin's YouTube channel. He's going to be covering all the Cloud FF chat, in the build up to deadline. He's going live at 18:45 this evening. If you have a look through my timeline on Twitter, I did retweet something from Ian yesterday. So I'm sure if you then go to his timeline, you'll find a link to his stream. Rets closed. Caroline saying, let's go. Gavin says, last year you helped my mate Richard become less uncomfortable with the term arsemanship. Remember? It really, really helped him. Generically, if that's okay. What one idea would you share with the world? Bloody hell. What one idea would have stopped fucking warring with each other? Would be a really good start. Really good start. Catherine says, close. Good luck, everyone. Friday, may you all have a good game. Stephen Carr, welcome back on Patreon, mate. I saw you. Good luck, all. You should be able to access Slack as per normal, Stephen. Let me know if you've got any troubles. PK say, we locked. Oh, shit. Why did I go for Cunha? The Waddler GG. Thanks, James. Good luck, everyone. DTAF. Hey, James. Non-FPL. Here we go. Thoughts on the championship and who you think may come up this season playing Gaffer. Yeah, it started Gaffer. Not a great game week 1. Even though I avoided Sheffield United completely, it was a great game week 1. Leicester might have the points deduction. I think Ipswich will win it. I think they'd set themselves up in the right way to be able to do this and bounce back. And I'd love them to come back because it's a really good away day. So Ipswich, I think. Southampton depends how well Will still does. Leicester depends on the points deduction. If they avoid it, it'll be up there again. I think based on what I watched last week, Bristol City would be one to watch. Really, really promising display at Bramall Lane. So they was in the playoffs last year. And again, I'd love to see them come up. Not done Bristol. So I'd love to see, I know it's going to upset a few Rovers patrons we got and stuff. But you know me, I want to tick off the places I ain't been to. So I'd like to see Bristol City come up. But I think most likely I'll say Ipswich and Southampton. Just because I think Leicester might be in for deductions. Greg says, I did jury service, take a decent book with you. That's what I'm saying. So like in terms of the content, I'm more likely to take a charger, mate, and do some writing for my patrons. I think that's probably a more likely thing for me. Sports Hustler says, is FPL your full-time gig now? It is, mate. Yeah. Night and day, never stops. But I'm very lucky, mate. Thank you. I date Kate Moss. Well, congratulations to you. This is, what are you saying for Champions League winner, James? Favourite and punt. Well, based on what I saw Wednesday night, I think we can all see that Tottenham Hotspur will win it, can't we? PSG have got a challenge on their hands now in the sense that Chelsea and Tottenham, with very different tactical setups, have shown some vulnerabilities. As I said yesterday on stream, I think we must acknowledge that PSG had only had a week to prepare, basically, and weren't at their best. So I still think they're the team to beat. I think Liverpool and Arsenal will be very strong in the Champions League this year. And judging by what I saw last week, Bayern Munich will be stronger this year as well. But again, friendly, should we read too much into it? Barca, if they can get it right with the high line, I think Madrid have got a bit of work to do, personally. I still think PSG are the ones to beat. Punt. Chelsea. I think at this stage it would be, right? It's new for Maresca. We don't quite know how it's going to work 2 games a week and stuff, but very capable, Ned. You saw that in the final, right? They'll go into them games, the Club World Cup final, obviously. They'll go into games with the confidence to know they can do that, right? So I think Chelsea would be in the punt territory, I think, for Champions League, because there's still, Gary Mannett would say, it's still a young team. I don't think it's being disrespectful saying that. So I think Chelsea punt favourite. I still think PSG would be the team to beat. Dash Dirty says, what team outside of England are you most excited to follow this year? None. I'm excited is the wrong word. Some of them teams I just mentioned, I'm intrigued to see how they get on, but excited would be the wrong word. Rick D says, I had no idea there were so many of us paying patrons. Huge congrats and so well deserved. Hard work paying off. Thank you, my friend. I've done myself. Answer some questions, but support the show. Peace Box, North London Derby. How you feeling about the big games this season? We have a striker. You have Frank in the hot seat. Should be fun. Yeah, look, I think a takeaway from Wednesday night would be you'd see that Tottenham hopefully can be more competitive in these games this year and actually give teams of this quality a problem. That said, if you watched the game against Bayern Munich last week, you wouldn't think that, right? So quality-wise, we're missing way too much offensively to regularly think that we can put in performances against the best sides like Wednesday night. But in a one-off given situation, yeah, sure. I think it will give us confidence for things like Manchester City next week, that we go there and not just get hammered. And every year we go there and I think we get hammered and we normally get a result. Maybe this time it will go the other way. Not that I still don't think we'll get anything. We're just too weak offensively at the moment. Ultimately, we scored from 2 set pieces the other night. Right, we need attackers badly. Caroline says, "Pray you don't get a forward case." Thanks. Eric says, "Which team has had the best transfer window so far?" Excuse me. You have to be careful with this because people would have said West Ham this time last year, and that, no one looks back on that now and thinks that. Too much is not necessarily a good thing, but Liverpool, you would think, have made additions that looks great. I'm very impressed with what Sunderland have tried to do. We can't look at them and say they're not having a go. How it's going to look once you pull it all together, well, they've got to start this season well because of the way their fixtures have landed. But I'm intrigued to see it. And I guess ultimately, if Sunderland stay up, just by that virtue, you'd say it's them. Because remember how far adrift they were, Burnley and Leeds in the Championship, right? And I think people think they've got a genuine shot. So I think at this moment, pound for pound, you'd say Sunderland. But I also don't know enough about the club in the background to know if they go back down, are they in trouble because they've spent too much? I don't have that impression, by the way. So if they stay up, Sunderland. If they don't, it's not. John Fleming says, King James, best jerseys this year. Have you seen City's third kit? Probably, but I'm not a thing for looking at other teams' kits. Tottenham's black kit's nice this year. Rowan Carrera, James, you're the GOAT. Thank you, mate. Kaylin says, realistic dream Spurs signing, which hasn't been rumoured. Gibbs White. That these questions are so tough, right? Because like obviously the Savinho links at them. I never would have thought about like us going for a Savinho. Priorities are 10. I don't think there's anything good enough that we can get unless it's something that we haven't heard of. Ultimately, you're buying something younger. Because if it's that good, the others have already probably bought it. So, very difficult to say, mate. I tend not to get myself too high on these things. It's like Eze at the moment. Like, I haven't looked for a couple of hours, but the Tottenham IT guys are getting quite confident about it. I'm not going to put myself in that position, mate, because I know he might be playing for Arsenal next week. So I'm not doing that to myself. I don't really want to do that. So let's move on. Tottenham will do something. I'm going to have to trust them. Pro Evo Stevo says, evening, James. Another fantastic correspondence series again. Good luck, fellow and Coys. Thank you, mate. Ed Somers says, thoughts on what's happening at Sheffield Wednesday and recently Morecambe. It's just an FPL podcast, Ed. So we released the podcast on Patreon on Money in Football series. We did a 40-minute podcast on Morecambe and Sheffield Wednesday. I'm not aware of any updates from Sheffield Wednesday since we recorded that podcast on Tuesday. I'm aware of Jason Whittingham, the Bond Group, putting out a statement last night saying that there's an agreement in place with the Punjab Warriors. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm concerned for that football club, very much so. Let's fingers crossed and hope that it gets signed. They've got 5 days to do it, as far as I can tell, or they don't exist. So let's hope that it goes through. That's like drastically essential. So yeah, we covered that on the podcast on Tuesday. And we'll likely, I mean, Sheffield Wednesday is going to be an ongoing subject that we'll revisit on our Money in Football podcast, I'm sure. I hope more can be something that we don't have to revisit, in seriousness. Paul Whitehead says, non-FPL, do you feel the Premier League is too levelled? Only 2-3 teams can win, and I reckon could name 4 teams who will be in trouble. How many teams did you think could win the league the year Leicester won it? The strength of our mid-table is much stronger than it was when Leicester won the league. So I feel like now, if a Palace or a Brighton or a Forest that they got a good head up of steam and had a good run, why not? Why not to potentially push in there? If you do need the combination like it was in the Leicester year where everybody had a fucking slip off at the same time. But then the team that won it the following season finished 10th in that Leicester season, right? In Chelsea, and Antonio Conte's Chelsea were brilliant that season. I mean, I wouldn't rule Chelsea out as an impossibility this year, and I wouldn't rule Manchester United out as an impossibility either. What if Villa or Newcastle start like a train? I wouldn't completely rule it out. What if Liverpool drop off and Arsenal drop off? What if it's a lower total? Like, it's not impossible for the likes of Chelsea's to be, if it's the sort of total that did Arsenal even get to 80 points last year? I can't remember. But if it's like that sort of total, then essentially probably any of the top 8, I would say, other than my team, could in theory walk away with it. So I agree with you that it's probably more likely to take 90 points, and therefore I would say it's Liverpool or Arsenal with a chance of it being City, and then a less chance of it being Chelsea, and probably not anyone else. But yeah, me and Clayton have been saying this week, that it's like everybody thinks the top 4. Every single correspondent predicted the same top 4, slightly different order, but same 4 teams. And we've had this before, and guess what? That weren't the top 4. So wait and see. Injuries might have a big role to play yet. Do we feel completely right? I mean, think back to this time last year. Did any of us truly think Liverpool would win the league? Really? With Klopp going. It wasn't many of us really thought it was going to happen. So, don't rule it out. I think United will be much stronger this year. Not to that extent, but they keep the squad fit. No European football. Goldfinger says, is FPL create your full-time job? I feel like we just had that one. Yes, I'm very blessed, my friend. Thank you. Elron covered, you handled the pull-off question like a pro. Thank you, mate. Yeah. Should be good at this by now, shouldn't I? FPL Crusader says, thanks for making FPL fun again. James, your content is always number one. What's your go-to pre-game feed? Growing up in New Zealand, it was always... feed. He was in food, sorry. I thought you meant as in like live feed before a game. It was always meat pies and Moro bars. It used to be chicken, but queue's too fucking long now, mate. So no, I don't have anything specific. To be honest, quite often for me now, it's a pint of inches and a sausage roll in the ground. Quite often now. Tottenham do 2 banging sausage rolls, I have to say. Thomas Powell, hi James. If you won FPL, yeah, it's formality, mate. And they allowed you to do something to the game for the following season, what would you do? Cancel it. Cancel it, mate. It'd be the last ever winner. Eat that. Cancel it. Fuck the lot of you. Mark says, with the 8-second rule, will keepers no longer get carded for time wasting? They definitely will, because the 8-second rule is an open when the ball is live. It doesn't exist on goal kicks, so yeah, they definitely will. Gazza's Flute says, Rangers fan here. I'd never would have guessed that from your handle, mate. Thoughts on how Mikey Moore will do for Rangers, should make his debut tomorrow in the Cup. You like Mikey. I think he's had a really difficult year where he's not been able to kick on the way we hoped, because he had a really bad illness. You also had some injury niggles as well. As much as I adore him and think there's a big talent there, I don't think he's ready yet. But in terms of his natural ball carrying ability, he needs to go somewhere and feel the confidence. And I think you'll like his ball carrying ability. I think it might take him a while, and you might find like second half of the season he looks great. I wouldn't expect him to be amazing straight away. Great size football club for him to obviously go and play at, but it probably depends what he's going to be up against in terms of physicality. He's not quite there yet. I hope this toughens him up a bit. Jonathan says, evening James, who's a bigger Spurs legend, Gazza or Son? Surely it's Sonny. Wow. What a question. I mean, both are. And it's difficult to compare, right? Because longevity, you'd have to say Son. But I think to be a Tottenham fan in 1991, when the club was legitimately on the verge of bankruptcy, desperately needed the money for a Gascoigne sale transfer and to qualify for European competition, and he pretty much single-handedly carried us to the FA Cup final. And then when he was an idiot in it, the team then stepped up for themselves and finished up the job. I don't think you could say just on longevity, Sonny. I think Sonny is a legend and one of the best attacking players in terms of wide players to play for Tottenham. Paul Gascoigne should have become the best midfield player in the world. So I don't think it's that easy to compare. And if it wasn't for Tottenham's need for money and then Gascoigne's own failures in the cup final, maybe he would have become that, and there's every chance he would have stayed at Tottenham and there'd have been a different Tottenham in the 90s. He had to go for his own career, and B, Tottenham were desperate for the money. So I think the story is more than that, rather than just be able to give you a straight answer. I should probably do the team news, shouldn't I? Actually see if my captain's turned up tonight. He has, that's good. The Liverpool team, I'm pretty sure, is what I'd predicted. Yeah, it's that 11 that I've just put on the screen for you, bottom right. So Alisson, Frimpong, Kanai, Van Dijk, Kirkis, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Salah, Wirtz, Ekitike. The Bournemouth team's not right, though. So I'll put that back up for you. But it's Petrovic in goal. It's Adam Smith at right back. And me and Neil Grover had discussed on Correspondent Week that wonder if he'd pick Smith for his experience. The way it had been leading up this week, it did feel like it'd be a raw job, but it's not a huge surprise. Diakate, centre-side, Truffer, Adam, Scott, Semenyo, Brooks, Tavernier, Evan Nilsson. There you go. Not bad. 21 out of 22. So, failed you. Sorry. We'll let the rest of that continue. I should just leave it. I'll just leave the Liverpool team up. That's probably what you want to know most, isn't it? Right. Last question I can see is Thomas Thornton. I'm not going to answer any more than that. Otherwise, I'll be here forever. I want to go home. I'll quick fire these. Great question, though, Jonathan. Thank you. I don't think it's a straight answer. I think if you ask me, it's Gascoigne. I think. But it's also Sonny's very fresh in the mind. Gavin Richardson says, love COTC week. Everton, Sunderland, Leeds, Burnley are really light. You mean Correspondent Week? Do you feel what you do has an affinity with old fanzine culture, proper old local journalism, recommended patron to all? Away the lads, come you Spurs. Thank you. I think I know what many of your interests is the fantasy element, but I think often the understanding for the fantasy element can be done via searching harder into a football club and not just thinking, Gakpo versus Wirtz. Like with Liverpool, it's a bit different, but with other clubs, it's more of a story. It's more of a story that can actually then help your understanding to then make your fantasy decisions. And getting a vibe from these people to actually how the feeling of their club is and stuff. Because let's be honest, how many of us really know, like, are Leeds fans confident or not? Like, how do you know? And listen, Ed might be confident and the next Leeds fan might not be, and vice versa. But to get that vibe and that insight is great. It's massive for me because then my learning is huge. It's huge. Once Correspondent Week's out the way, I used to say to Serge, like, if Sheffield United's left back breathes the wrong way, I need to know about it. And once Correspondent Week's out the way, that's how I feel about every player in the league. I feel like I need to know about if they breathe the wrong way. And I need Correspondent Week to get that. So I think, there is the fan element to it, but I think there's a lot you can take for fantasy, even if there's not always fantasy discussions. I mean, some of the conversations we had, people like Neil, Bournemouth, and Bradley and Wolves, I think it half led to some of people's decisions about Liverpool and Manchester City players, for example. So we'd delve into that much deeper. So, love it. COTC, Burnley, Sunderland this week. I think that's important because people want like some enablers, be a number of people on free hits this week. And then the following week, Liverpool, Arsenal with Dan and Adam. And then 8 of the guys are going to be on across 4 Clash of Correspondent podcasts ahead of game week 4. So we've got West Ham, Tottenham, the Manchester Derby, Brentford v Chelsea, and Bournemouth v Brighton. Ballon says, talking of wild takes, I think Liverpool will have problem achieving third place. 4-2-3-1 without world-class pure defensive mid is very unbalanced. They have well-rounded CMs and super attacking AMs. And you may well be right. I date Kate Moss says, correct answer, James, up the Clarets. I can't remember which one that's to, but thank you. Ballon says, Slot will hope the constant Gajan pressing works and that 5 subs save his player legs until they play every 2-3 days and begin losing points to anyone. So is this question time? Sweet Blue says, some advice for people without the experience of fancy games with defensive bonus points. Don't track it during the games. It will drive you mad. Do you know, it's a great shout from Victor, and I won't be doing that. I cannot be watching fantasy games. Oh, fucking hell. Murillo needs 2 more headed clearances. No. I need to go down the content route for you people, mate. I'm not going to be doing that. Yvette says, yes, can Mikey Moore play at left back, centre forward, and in central defence plays? No, probably could play as a false 9 in an emergency. I date Kate Mars. Thanks for the hard work. Great content. Smash the likes, guys. Nicola Torco says, hi, James. Missed you during the off-season, big man. Not because you weren't making all the brilliant content we know and love you for, but because the wife and I need a break from FPL during the break. That's fair enough, mate. I hope the family is well. Goes on to say, we're currently in Greece on vacation. Wouldn't miss your Gameweek1 deadline stream for any reason. However, thank you as ever. Have a great start. Best of luck and always have fun. Thank you, mate. Have a great vacation, mate. Hope all's well. You know where I'm at if you need me. Goldfinger says, thanks for content, James. And channel content goes much further than normal FPL channels. Thank you. Gavin says, a Toon fan. Mum is a Smoggy. That's Middlesbrough, isn't it? Stepdad of Mackham, Sunderland. Sunderland have had an irritatingly good window. Have a wonderful week. Yeah. Ishrake. Why do I always end up leaving too much stuff to research to help me decide the players, vids, cycle, stats? In the end, I don't complete all the things I want to see, and I'm not 100% confident. Doesn't matter now. Decision's been made, mate. Unstable relationship. Do you think I need a lawyer? Probably. XNSJ Winston James, thoughts on late Bowen injury rumours? PS, love your voice. Not heard anything, mate. Chisborn says, hi, James. Thanks for the content. Somehow we have almost the same team. So I'll blame you. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was a great answer, wasn't it, Thomas? Vindaloo, on holiday in Turkey, we just had a 3-hour power cut, so I'm locked into whatever I was dicking around with. Cheers, James. Good luck. Hope you can pull out, pal. Steve Roberts says, sorry. Steve Roberts says, cheers, James. Stoke season ticket holder since the late 90s, but uncles were Spurs fans. Do you remember Vinny Samways, some player? Vinny Samway's got a lot of stick from Tottenham players, but he stood up more than anybody in that cup semi-final when Gascoigne wasn't fully fit, and then in the final, right? So, yeah, fond memories of Vinny. He was calling Vinny sideways, but yeah, it was a good footballer, very harshly thought of. Because people compared him to Gascoigne. It's like comparing Solanke and Richarlison now to Kane. Like, it's not fair, is it? Yellow Womble, we got Lancashire on loan at Oxford. What can we expect from him? Played out of position last week, did okay. Will was one that's surprised, I think, in terms of the potential could be that he's not ready for top level yet. And I'd say he's probably not maybe even ready to be playing regularly at the Championship. You probably already know that because he had a short loan at West Bromwich Albion. But I'd hope that by the time you get into the second half of the season, that it'd be doing really well for you, actually. I think there's a possibility of that. So yeah, I'll be keeping a strong eye on Will, because I think he has the natural raw materials to potentially be a good number 9. There are elements that he's going to struggle with. Pace is not electric or anything. But he's got the attributes to potentially be a good number 9, yeah. Thank you, Greg, for sharing those teams. Thomas says, any predictions for red cards this weekend? Yeah, Jared Bowen just after he misses out for injury. The Atma says, that was the last one I was going to do. Okay, I can see all these. The Atma says, sorry if you have done this already. Your early predictions for League, top 2 Champions League, Europe relegation, best player, best new player. Did play a bit earlier. Best new player, probably Vert, so I'll add in. I think player of the year could be Casado. Arsenal, Liverpool, City, Chelsea. I think United 5th. And I think it's probably between Villa and Newcastle, maybe Brighton for 6th. With my team is a possibility as well. Bottom 3, I still think will probably be the promoted 3 teams. As long as Wolves pull their finger out. Which they'll probably do in January, and then they'll be all right. I date Kate Moss. I accept that mugging me off. That amuses me. Yeah, it's all good. Please don't take it personally anyway. Heather says, thanks, James. Best luck for the season. Kenneth says, correspondent week is really the most interesting, valuable week in the year. The only week of the year I spend 20 hours plus. Okay, YouTube. Thanks all for your great content. It was, by the way, it was 16 hours the 20 podcast, and it was another 8 hours worth across another 10 podcasts on Patreon as well. Adate came. Most great work as ever. Can't wait for Clash of Correspondence next week. Thank you. Glenn Fossen, good luck, everyone. FPL Gas Dan, hello, my friend. Hello, James. Just seen my team has the same 11 starters as Harry. In a way that's good, but looks like I'm copying him. Who gives a fuck? Harry always does great. So probably keep going, Dan. Christopher C says on bench boost 1 as well here, James. Got a spicy enabler in Mate Sarr. Hope he's advanced tomorrow. You should be. Atma, thanks for the content. Cheers, good luck. Kibber's FPL traits. You inspire me to work harder. You're a legend. The kind of content you produce, nobody has the ability to replicate that. Thank you. And Crimson Skull has got it right, James. Go home. Or maybe Abdul Rahman Ashraf, who's just asked when is the deadline, can also have the final word. Right, thanks guys, really appreciate that. Fun, enjoyable stream. Thank you. I wasn't sure it would be because you're liable to get a lot of repetitive stuff game week 1, but no, that was really good fun, so absolutely appreciate that. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a brilliant weekend. Keep an eye out for what the schedule will be. We'll have a think about it the weekend, but definitely should be with me for the Game Review podcast on Monday. Smash a like, hit the sub. Have a great weekend, everyone. Ciao for now.